All right, so I started lifting a long time ago, and I never had anyone to train me. I never had any sort of formal instruction. I just kind of did it. I just kind of lifted weights, and for about 6 months after I started to learn about like nutrition and stuff, and how that can actually affect your results in the weight room, I was just doing whatever, and then I spent about 6 months every single night going online and learning everything I can. And when you go online, there's a lot of competing ideas, and everyone wants to be right. And I still learned a lot from it. It took me a long time to actually squat because I was afraid of it. Nobody taught me, and I don't think I was allowed to use free weights till I was 16. So the first year I couldn't do it anyways. And I never really started squatting until I got to college at 17. And by that time, my legs were like really underdeveloped. But regardless, for that period of time, I was just pushing weight. I was getting under it and lifting as much as I could, and for as many repetitions as I could. And a lot of times I'd use a spotter, and a lot of times I'd fail or wouldn't have the right type of form. And I did this for a long time. I did this, and for about a year and a half, I hit a plateau and I didn't grow at all, and I was frustrated. I was like, why am I not growing? I'm doing everything I should. I'm eating like I should. I'm coming in here and with all the energy and momentum I could muster, and I wouldn't get tired in certain parts of my body. I would never feel it in my chest. I wouldn't feel my biceps. My lats would never get sore, and it was frustrating. I was like, gosh, what's wrong with me? Why have I maxed out? I couldn't have possibly maxed out. Is this as big as I could get naturally? And it's how I discovered the style of lifting that I've utilized over the past year, and it's really helped propel me over the fence of average gym goer, in good to great shape. I wanted to be in good shape that was so good it was undeniable. It was like there was no question whether or not I was the best person that I could be, the best Josh Stover that I could be. And the way I discovered this was by taking the weight all the way down. I was realizing that I could stimulate the muscle when I flexed it, but I couldn't feel it when I bench pressed. When I bench pressed, my shoulders would fatigue before it would ever reach my chest. And so I spent a period of about 5 weeks where I was really just flexing the muscle. I was just pushing the muscle to its limit just by flexing it with like the 2 and 3 pound dumbbells. I was the only person in the weight room who touched those, and people just kind of laughed. They were just like, oh, that, what are you doing? You're just messing around there. And I thought in my mind, I was like, I'm just gonna lift the weight. I'm gonna make every single repetition count. And an easy way to demonstrate this is with biceps. Everyone can flex their biceps. You get told that from like an early age. When somebody says flex, they want you to hit like a bicep pose or something. And so that's the way I really describe it to other people, because not everyone can flex their tricep or their rear delt or do a lat spread, but everyone can flex their biceps. And realistically, you can flex every single muscle in your body. You just aren't used to using it. So your mind-muscle connection isn't thorough there. And so the style of lifting that I've determined to be advantageous specifically for developing a proportional aesthetic style of a body is this form of hypertrophy, where you're keeping the muscle under tension over like a 5-second count, and you're thinking in your mind, can I flex this as hard as I can? Am I flexing as hard as possible? Can I flex harder? And you're making the repetition count. You're not really counting, like waiting until you're getting to 12 reps or something. You're just thinking in your mind, am I pushing the muscle as hard as I can? And in this style, it's important to know exactly what you're lifting. I really focus on one muscle group at a time, which means if I'm doing like lat pull downs or something, I try to relax my forearm and my biceps and my rear delts as much as possible, and just focus on contracting the lats over a full range of motion. And so I'll kind of demonstrate a little bit with my bicep here. So you have your bicep, and you can flex it while keeping this forearm completely relaxed. And it's a little bit tricky because whenever you flex, you wanna engage this part and make it flare out. But your forearm, when you're doing like curls and stuff, your forearm robs a lot of the growth from your actual bicep. And a lot of times your forearm will get fatigued before your bicep gets fatigued. And it's really frustrating because you're like, oh, I could do more, but my forearm can't lift it. So the point is to make the force be the actual flexing of the muscle, not the weight. You could pick something up and force your arms to move, or you can force your muscle to contract mentally. And this is how you tell your muscle to grow. You use your mind to say, all right, I want to grow here or here. And so throughout the range of motion, you start open flex, and you flex before you even do anything. You're flexing your bicep. So you're flexing it, you're coming up, you're like, oh, can I flex this harder? I'm not flexing as hard as I can. And this is all relaxed. A lot of times I'll hold the weight like this, just so that I'm not tempted to grip it. And you come up here and you peak it. You squeeze as hard as you can at the top, and this is where the growth really happens. You peak, and then you keep the tension on it. You don't just, release or come down slowly, but using this to stabilize. You're still keeping that tension on the bicep all the way down until you get to about here. If you get to here, you might torque the elbow a little bit if you're not experienced, but you get to about here. And you never relax this. Like even after your first repetition, you just come back up, and you're thinking in your mind, am I pushing as hard as I can? Mentally, you're pushing the skin out of the muscle, and so you're just squeezing. You're like, and just wrecks it. Just wrecks it. And a lot of times people aren't able to do this right because they're used to doing the weight that they're used to lifting with, but a lot of times that's way too much weight to do this style of lifting. So I recommend starting with very light weights, and a lot of times I use cables, because cables allow you to hit it from these angles and keep the tension always on the bicep. A lot of times I'll curl like this just so I can peak back here, whereas if I was curling like this, it might my forearm might rob it of that growth. So that's a little bit of an introduction of, my whole style and mindset when I come into the weight room and lift. A lot of times there aren't machines that cater to this style. They're just about like moving the weight. And so I've had to develop a certain number of exercises that I've found really hit certain parts of the body that often get neglected. And so eventually I'll start recording some of those exercises and uploading them. But so if you're frustrated with the response you're getting from your body currently, give that a try. Go in there with some real light weight, sometimes even no weight at all. Sometimes it helps just to flex whatever muscle you're thinking. You're thinking, let's say you're doing triceps, and you're thinking, I'm going to push my triceps as hard as I can. And so you start the flex all the way back here. This is taut. Like this is all relaxed. You can squeeze this, and you're pushing it and contracting as hard as you can to get that full range of motion, and it never leaves. And you can do this with any muscle group. Legs, it's tricky because you're so used to pushing it. But so just go in the gym, flex as hard as you can for a couple of sets, and then just use the weight or the cables as angles, just to hit the muscle just to be able to flex from different angles. Don't necessarily use it to force you to flex. Flex in your mind first, and just use the weight as an assistance to kind of provide resistance from different angles. And so give it a try. Start light. Make sure you're hitting an entire range of motion, and see how your body really reacts to it.